Tonight with us we have Chris and Michelle Chan. They were both born and raised in Hong Kong. Chris is majoring in business management with the emphasis in marketing and human resources, minor in hospitality and tourism management, and certificates in digital business and entrepreneurship. He served his mission in Scotland and Ireland from 2014 to 2016. He is currently working at Career Services as an external relations specialist for APCC. Michelle is now pursuing her bachelor's in TESOL education, minor in hospitality and tourism management, and certificates in special education and entrepreneurship. She served her mission in England in the England-London mission. She is currently working as an online EIL instructor for the Center for Learning and Teaching here at BYU Hawaii. They both met here and got married just this last August. Then we have Tom and Tara McBride. Both graduated from BYU Hawaii and have since gone in to receive many certifications in the health and fitness realm. Tara is the state Olympic lifting champion and record holder. Tom is just finishing his postgraduate education in the field of the public health. They are both training for an Ironman in June, and they have been partners in their careers for the past 6 years, spending lots of time working together and playing. Together they founded and are currently operating the Ko'olau Wellness Center. And then we have Scott and Ann Springer, met during sophomore years of college. They quickly became friends and began dating a few months later. After a year of dating, they were married in the Logan, Utah temple. Scott and Ann supported each other while they were both editors of their college newspaper. They supported each other while they each earned their MBA degrees, and they supported each other while Ann built her career in marketing and Scott built his career in publishing. They support each other as they raise their 3 talented daughters, and today they both teach here in the business department. We will now ask our panelists a few questions from the Women in Business Subcommittee. And if any of you have questions, please wait till the responses and raise your hands. So our first question, there's 3 parts to it. What is the best way to show support of your spouse's career? And what have you done, and what has your spouse done to show support of you?
Go for it. You're in the middle.
Me? Alrighty.
Do you want to use the mic?
Yeah, I'll use mic. Okay. So what is the best way to show support to your spouse's career? What have you done? What have I done? And what has your spouse done to show support of you? Man, these are really great questions. So Tom and I, like she said, we're super fortunate enough to be together all of the time. We work together, we play together, almost everything together, and it's fantastic. So I feel like we're super fortunate in that sense, and we've worked really hard because that's something that we wanted. We wanted to be together, we wanted to spend time together, and it works really well for us. And so how we show each other support, I can't say it's just one particular thing. I think it's a combination of little things from day to day to month or week to week things. I feel like we have a general idea of what needs to be done. We both have our to-do lists separately and then together. And so by talking about it and being open with each other, we're able to, one, help them figure out what they need to do that day and support them in what they need, and vice versa. And then attacking what needs to be done together kind of thing. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Anybody else? Because I can keep going.
Okay. I think the best way to show support to my spouse is to take care of things that outside of her career or things that she has to do outside of her career. For example, if she's busy with her work or studies, I would take care of the domestic thing, which is housework, cooking, etc. Things that she would have done if she's not busy with studies or work, then I would do it because this sometimes that she might be busy with work and study that she doesn't have time to even cook for dinner or lunch, then I would do it for her and we'll eat together, and that's something that I've done.
And it is something that I think is really lucky for me, I guess. Like, people always tell me that, oh, housework is what women should do, or cooking it should be what women should do. But then I feel so fortunate because when I'm really busy, there's always someone at home who can cook for me and who can like do the laundry for me. And sometimes even without asking him beforehand, he would have done these things for me. And I think the most important thing is just to talk and to understand one another and to see what they need. Like, I would not take advantage of that. If I'm free, I would definitely cook. But when I'm not, he's always there for me. So, yeah.
I think the best way to answer this would be years ago, in fact, back in 2003, I read an interview between President Gordon B. Hinckley and his wife, Marjorie Hinckley, and it really had an impact on me. In that interview, Sister Hinckley said this about her husband. She said, "From the very beginning, he gave me space and he let me fly. He never tells me what to do. He just lets me go. He's made me feel like a real person. He doesn't rule or try to dominate me." President Hinckley then added, "I've tried to recognize my wife's individuality, her personality, her desires, and her background, and her ambitions. Yes, let her fly. Let her develop her own talents. Let her do things her own way. Get out of her way and marvel at what she does." So I was inspired by that years ago when our kids were small, so I've done my best to get out of my wife's way and marvel at what she does.
It's pretty fabulous, right? So I just want to add to that, you know, we've been married 21 years, and we've gone back and forth in times of need, right? Where maybe I'm really supporting him, or there's been times where he's really supportive of me, and we both can't, you know, we're both giving 110% all the time, but in different ways, in different capacities, kind of like what Michelle and Chris shared. And even at his busiest times, he'd always come home and say, "How can I help?" And I really appreciated that. So I think that's a great thing for spouses to be able to do for one another, recognizing that maybe you're both busy and doing different things, because if he's really busy, at one point he was getting his MBA, he was Elders Quorum president, he worked full time. Our life was incredibly busy. We had 2 small children and 1 on the way, and I was on bed rest. So I was like holding down the fort at home, and I was still running our home business. And he was really busy at work and at school and at church. And so I really appreciated that we weren't in this battle to see like, well, I'm busier than you are, you should do this. It was really like we were trying to survive our life at the time. And so I really appreciated that no matter how busy his day was, he was always willing to come home and help and recognize that I was probably having a really long day as well.
So that leads us into our next question of what qualities does your spouse have that give you confidence they would support you in your academic and professional goals?
I'm holding the mic, so I'll just share this one. I'll share a little story. So when I was, before I pursued my master's degree, Ann mentioned that I earned an MBA. I actually had planned to pursue a different master's degree, more related to my undergraduate, and I'd actually been accepted into the program, and I was a couple weeks, I think, away from starting classes. Well, she had the courage and the wisdom to come home one morning after taking a walk with her friend, and I remember very clearly, she walked in the front door and she said to me, "I'm really sorry to tell you this, but I think you need to change your master's degree. I don't think you should pursue this path. I know you're excited about it, but I just don't feel good about it." And I was a little taken back by it, but appreciated the courage and the honesty, because we'd always try to have honesty in our marriage. And I stopped and I spent a couple days thinking about it. And once I was finally able to slow down and not be so ambitious in my own direction, I was able to actually receive a whole bunch of promptings in a different direction that said she was right, that I needed a change, so I pursued and went a path of business instead. And I was just grateful. So my answer to this question would be to have open and honest conversations, to just have the courage to be able to speak up and have both spouses feel like they can actually share those with each other.
All right. Something that Tara does that I really appreciate as a quality is, one, she can understand my language. She can read my mind when I have an idea or trying to explain something. She can probably interpret and get to the bottom of what I'm actually trying to say. But one thing, leading into what Scott just shared, going off of that, Tara has a really good ability to pick the truth out of a conversation. For example, and I think some people have probably had an experience like this, kind of the typical telephone game where someone says, this is an example we had where Tara likes milk chocolate and I like milk chocolate and I don't mind dark chocolate. And one time I said to someone, yeah, I don't mind dark chocolate. And then it led into, oh, Tom hates dark chocolate. Oh, dark chocolate's Tom's favorite, and so on and so forth. And so Tara has an ability in business ideas and in our career to really be the voice of reason. She not only is optimistic in whatever our roadmap is, but she can point out if we're on the right path. If you have the wrong roadmap, it really doesn't matter how optimistic you are, you'll never get to the right destination. So I think that what I'm trying to say is she keeps us grounded in the gospel and what's really important in life. Reminding us that we need to go to the temple, reminding us to say our prayers, scripture study, and do those little things when it is so easy to get busy, and especially in our situation, bring work home. And that's why, I think quality she has.
Oh, thanks, babe.
I think one of the qualities that Michelle has is like she likes to teach by telling me stories. She has taught me a lot of different lessons, life lessons, by telling me different stories and her personal experience. And one of the story that was really meaningful and stuck out to me is the story that she shared to me about Obama and his wife Michelle. And would you like to share about it, Michelle? I forgot the story.
Okay, well, it's weird. Okay, so the story is about, I think, Obama and his wife Michelle were in a restaurant, and then Michelle just told him that, oh, I just met someone that I dated before. And then Obama is like, oh, so what is he doing right now? Do you ever hear the story? Okay, so, and then Michelle just said, oh, he's actually working in this restaurant right now. And then Obama said, oh, so if you married him at the end, you would be the wife of someone who works in a restaurant. And then Michelle just told him, no, it's that if I marry him at the end, he will be the president of the United States. So, this is just, I don't know, it's weird. But I just feel like as women, it's really important to have confidence in myself, even though sometimes I still don't have confidence in myself, but then I feel like we are someone who can change a man's life. And when he is upset, I'm there to lift him up, I guess. Why am I praising myself? So yeah, that's all I want to say.
Can I just add one more thing?
Thanks.
So I feel like this question is kind of asking, in particular maybe for the women in the room, how do you know if the person you're dating or you're thinking about marrying is going to support me as I pursue my goals? And I know that was a big question I had when I was dating. And it was like a really long time ago, but I still remember those feelings, and I remember struggling in certain dating relationships, feeling like if I marry this person, am I just going to be an addition to his life? And what will happen to my goals? What will happen to my life? And when I met Scott, we were both like very similar. We had similar goals. And during our, we dated for quite a while. We dated for a year, and so it was a long time to really understand and see how we would fit together and how we worked together. We actually worked together during most of that time period, and we had a lot of experiences together to understand how those goals would be compatible. And I felt strongly that as I was pursuing my goals, I could feel that he was supporting me in that. And I maybe didn't feel that in some of the other relationships I had been in, where they were like, well, if you want to do that, you can. Like it was an option, but it wasn't necessary, right? And so he really supported me and saw that these are things that are important to me. These are things that I wanted to pursue, and said, well, if that's important to you, then you need to pursue that. And do you hear the difference in that? And so for me, it was really important to identify those qualities, and they're hard to tell, right? They're not super tangible. It's hard to tell that in a dating relationship. So I guess my advice would be to kind of test the waters on that. If you're having an event or you're in charge of women in business, does your significant other come to support you and watch you? Does he ask you out? Does he encourage you in those areas? And if he's not super encouraging or maybe discouraging, I would say those are probably red flags that their priorities will always take precedent, and you're kind of maybe just there to be the helper. And I feel like from the beginning we've always been equals, and that our goals and priorities are equally important, even though at times in our marriage, one person's priorities have risen above another just out of necessity. We can't both always be going full speed ahead. We have other, things going on in our life, and our children obviously take a big priority. And so I've just always been able to feel that from him from the beginning, and I appreciated it. It was something I recognized as different.
Did you want to add?
Yeah, I do. These are all great. Going on confidence and going on supporting each other. One thing that Tom and how he gives me my confidence in achieving my goals is Tom is my #1 fan. And he makes it known to me, which is really cool. Tom will support me in anything that I decide, and he tells me this quite often. And so it's really cool, especially when it came to like academic stuff as well as business. I'll start with academic because I was the first one in my family of 7 to go to college. My parents never went. I had to try to figure out like how do I even apply for college and all this stuff. And it was really hard. It was really hard for me. College was difficult. I didn't really have much experience. I couldn't really ask anybody, but Tom was always there to cheer me on. And what was really great, and how you have a #1 fan, and like we said before, Scott and then said before, is that they kind of show a tough love too. Here's an example. It was just, English is not my thing. It is not. I would way rather just go to the gym and lift some weights, okay, than write an essay. So being friends in TVA, I'd hear about spouses writing papers for their spouse. Am I allowed to say that? and I would be like, Tom, can you please just write this for me? Please, I'm like frustrated. I'm like crying. It's not making sense. And he's laughing because he knows this is true. And he's like, no, Terry, you can do it. You can do it. And I'd be like all upset and mad and just like grumble. But then at the end of the day, I did it. I did it. And I mean, I can't say I got like 100% or anything, but for me, it was good. And that's kind of where it starts. It's just maybe those little things. And now, and as an example, so I graduated in EXS and Tom graduated in business and finance and operational management. Tom has a lot more experience when it comes to business, and maybe we could say, what's the word? Shoots. Bidding, back and forth. What's that word? You know what I mean?
Negotiation.
Negotiation. There you go. Thank you. See? He's way better than I am. So with like negotiating, for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm sweating and whatnot. And Tom will put me in these situations where I am uncomfortable, but he's on the sideline cheering me on 100% kind of thing, which is so special to me, and it helps me have that confidence with that tough love that I can actually do it kind of thing. And it goes on, and it goes beyond school, it goes beyond business, it goes even into my athletic career that I'm doing right now, like with Olympic lifting, where I'm having all these doubts in my mind all the time, but he's over there and right beside me even, like, Terry, you can do this, you can win, you can accomplish it, anything, and he's very, very, very good at showing me that. So yeah, #1 fan, look for your #1 fan, and be that person's #1 fan.
Thank you for that specific example. Also, in addition to that, what has been the most meaningful display of support your spouse has shown you so far?
I'm just gonna add, holy cow, patience. Patience, patience, patience. Tom, I believe the most meaningful thing to me when it came to business or academics or athletics or any of my goals, Tom's support and being patient with me has been probably the most meaningful thing. When roadblocks come up, like I have a hole in my shoulder, or I've sprained an ankle, or something just bad happens in life. It happens. Life happens to everybody. And I get down or discouraged, or my goals don't matter anymore. I'm failing. I'm not doing so hot. He's always there, being super patient, listening to me, maybe complain. We can say that I complain a little bit, but comes back to being my #1 fan and being patient with me time and time again, being like, you know what, yeah, you're right, that sucked, but let's get better, let's move on. And so with him, his display and an example of patience would be, if you ever have a chance, you should ask us about our dating experience. He is the most patient man in the world. And 2 would be, the patience is just like a collaboration of all of these little things that he does. Little things like making dinner, doing the laundry, helping each other out when one's a little bit busier than the other kind of thing, just kind of hopping in. And so for me, it's definitely patience. Anyone?
The question's asking, what has been the most meaningful display of support your spouse has shown you? I can give a specific example. Moving here to Hawaii. Without question, the biggest show of support. We lived 16 years in California. We spent all of that time building a future for ourselves and a life that we were really happy with. We lived in a neighborhood we liked, we owned our home, we both had good career paths, our kids were happy in school, we were in the state we wanted to live in, we had great social connections, professional connections. And then I come home one day and I told her, hey, there's a job at BYU Hawaii I'm interested in applying for. What do you think about moving to Hawaii? And she said, well, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's think about it. And it's a really big decision to uproot your family when you're that connected and you've spent 15, 16 years building a life for yourself. And we moved here, and without question. In contrast to that was the terrible decision I made when we were first married. We graduated, both of us, at the same time with our bachelor's degrees, and I took a job without even telling her what job I took, without consulting with her at all. It was a place neither of us wanted to live, and especially Anne. And I was so excited about having a job offer, I went ahead and accepted it, and I came home and said, hey, look at this, we have a job, isn't this great? She was not happy about it, and that was it. I've always learned from that, you need to counsel with your spouse. That was a terrible display of counseling on my end, and since then I counseled a lot with her about moving to Hawaii, so I learned from that.
I was much more excited about moving to Hawaii. I won't mention where the other place was, but it's not nearly as tropical. I really struggle with this question because, I think kind of like what the McBrides have said, so many small things add up for me, and I hate to pick what I feel like is the most meaningful. And I can speak, just especially right now, to our current life is very, very busy. We've got a daughter in college, one who's graduating from high school, and one who's about to start high school. Our life is just extremely busy. I'm not sure we've ever been busier with church callings and lots of responsibilities. And like as the mom too, like it's been hard for me to let go of being in control of everything at home, and my husband has just taken over, and it's awesome. And last Friday night on our date, he spent like the first 45 minutes complaining about our children and how stressed out he was by them. And it made me just like, I got to have a little moment, because usually I think on date night it's been me like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said that to me. And I'm still so frustrated. You know, we live with 3 teenage girls, or 2 now, but still. One who texts us all the time. It's like she still loves us, but, and FaceTime, you know how you guys all are. And anyways, so it's been awesome to have this massive role reversal in a way we really haven't done in a very long time. And it's reminded me how incredibly supportive he is. And I'm like the one forgetting to pick up the kids from carpool these days. And he's texting me, it's okay, I already got it. And it's amazing to have somebody that has your back like that in such a way that it allows you, again, like the quote he shared, to really fly and to soar, especially at a time when my life is very, very busy. And I truly appreciate that. He's not necessarily less busy, but he's able to provide support in ways that I'm not always available.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know how many people in here are married or not, but one of the big things was she said yes when we got married. Which, if you know our story, is a big deal, because as she said, dating her was difficult. She made it a point that she was not interested in a relationship, to the point that while we were on a date, she invited another boy to be on the date.
Yeah.
But there's more to the
That's in the
story.
past.
But then when I asked her to marry me, I did not have a ring, or we hadn't talked about it at all, and I just asked the question. And then it's just been bliss ever since. We've been married almost 8 years, no kids yet, and probably this leads into this question. Elder Cottle was a senior missionary who used to teach here, and he had probably the coolest advice I'd ever heard on big life decisions, such as when to get married, the right spouse, when to have kids, things like that. And he said, because you can't just find it in one of the church manuals, right? He said that everyone has a natural path. And for some, that's, the month of dating after you've just met, and you get married and have kids right away, and that's great. And others, it takes, 5 years of dating, long engagement, so on and so forth, and it's like, which one's right? Well, they both are, if they're following their natural path and the Spirit's in it and what's right for them. And it's when you deviate from that natural path and fear creeps in, when maybe you should move forward in the relationship or you should step out of it, so on and so forth. And for us with kids and things like that, it's been the same thing. And Tara's really supportive, how we support each other in those displays is not, has been mentioned, not these big grand moments. It reminds me of Elder Ballard's talk of the gold miner, right? And the ones looking for the big gold nuggets, and the old prospector has the bag full of gold, and the younger one finds out that it's just a bunch of tiny flakes that he's gathered up. So far in our marriage, there's been times where I'm not operating 100%, and Tara's there to support me and take the load. And then I hope when maybe she's not operating 100%, I can be there and be as supportive. So yeah, going back to the question, I think it is just a lot, accumulation of those little gold flakes.
Okay. So I'm not sure if you feel like that, but like you two are married for 8 years, right? And then you two are married for 22 years?
21.
21, okay. And we're married for 6 months.
Yeah.
And like, it feels so inadequate to be here. listening to all these like advice and experiences because we dated for about 2 years before we got married, but then we're still really inexperienced couple trying to make a living right here in Hawaii. But then something that I really, really like about Chris is that he is really supportive. A lot of my friends teased us that wherever they see me, there will be Chris around because we're like always together if we're not at work and we're always together. But then I think this is something that I'm not ashamed about because I just like him to be with me. At the same time, I'm involved in different organizations and we have different regular activities, but then even though it's not related to Chris at all, he's always there. Like I'm TESOL at major and he's business major, but he's always at our TESOL activities because he knows that if I'm there, he needs to support me. So I really like the support that he shows me, and he's a great listener. I talk a lot. I really talk a lot, maybe not tonight. But then at home, I just talk to him a lot, and I would just tell him the story that happened to me from the minute I wake up till that point. And then he's always there listening to me patiently, and he will not say anything back. I'm really surprised because he's just really patient listening to me. And this is something that I think is really important in our relationship because it gives me a chance to express my feelings, and he's not being judgmental. Even sometimes I have like different opinions about things, but he's always there listening to me, and it just shows me that he cares about me and he takes time for me.
Awesome.
Okay. How do you keep a go-getter mentality and aspire for a greater career without diminishing your role as a wife or mother?
I feel like what Brother Springer said just now actually stole what I want to say about Sister Hinckley. Do you remember one time you asked me why I chose Chris?
I don't specifically remember that, but I may have.
Yeah,
I may
one
have.
time you asked me, oh, so why did you two, why did you choose Chris? And then I was like, oh, because of what Sister Hinckley said. Sister Hinckley said that I have loved President Hinckley because he has always given me wings to fly. And it is something that made me decided that Chris is the one because in my, the people that I dated before, they're good people, but then it's just that I remember one single time I was telling this one person that, oh, I'm going to take a lot of credits next semester, and I'm like just really nervous, and then he told me, oh, you're going to fail all those classes. I'm like, why would you tell me that? I just need someone to support me. But then whenever I tell Chris some of my ambitious goals, even though it's still not happening right now, but he always tells me, if you want it, you will get that because you're Michelle. And this is the confidence that he gives me. And oh, am I answering the question? Yeah. So I feel like he is supporting me in a way that I have confidence in myself, and I know that if I want to do something, I can achieve it. But at the same time, I also know that I need to balance my time. I cannot just concentrate on my studies and work, but without talking to him and doing the things that he wants. So balancing my time, yeah.
Do you want a minute? You good?
So, I have a wonderful quote that kind of sums up my feelings on this by M. Russell Ballard, and he says, "Once you know the Lord's will, you can then move forward in faith to fulfill your individual purpose. One sister may be inspired to continue her education and attend medical school, allowing her to have significant impact on her patients and to advance medical research. For another sister, inspiration may lead her to forego a scholarship to a prestigious institution and instead begin a family much earlier than has become common in this generation, allowing her to make a significant and eternal impact on her children now. It is possible for two similarly faithful women to receive such different responses to the same basic questions. Absolutely, he says. What's right for one woman may not be right for another. That's why it's important that we should not question each other's choices or the inspiration behind them. And I really appreciate this because I feel like I've been both of those women actually at different times. I've had inspiration to pursue my dreams, and other times, sometimes the dream is to be home with the kids and to be in the thick of all of that. And I'm grateful for that inspiration that tells me where I need to be and when I need to be there and for how long. And at times I've wondered what sometimes those answers are, and it's been quieter at times, and sometimes it speaks louder to me, but grateful for that opportunity that we have to have inspiration. And at times it's hard. I've felt judged by others for the choices that I've made, and that's not always easy, but they also maybe don't understand my perspective. Both worlds that I've lived in, and at times, sometimes I'm in both of those worlds very intensely at the same time, are totally different. Being at home full-time, being at home part-time and working part-time, working from home, working full-time, they're all really different, and they have pros and cons. And I think Heavenly Father is going to lead you where you're supposed to go, and you kind of have to let the rest of everyone else's opinions go. It's easier said than done. But I really love this quote, and I think it really speaks to me, and it's definitely been a guide for me throughout the years.
You want to add to Tara? You know you do.
No, I'm just really grateful for what you said, because I think that just nailed it right on the head, what I was thinking and going for. Because this is such an interesting question. I feel like it's kind of almost, it's set up in such a way where it's like you have to have one without the other kind of thing. Like, what makes a go-getter? What's a go-getter? What is it? Or just because you're going for something doesn't mean you're actually diminishing something else? Not necessarily, absolutely not. And then diminishing your role as a wife or a mother, I think it yeah, this question is interesting to me, and I'm really grateful for what you said, because yeah, it's like a go-getter mentality could be getting your baby to be potty trained, right? At home, or opening up a wellness center. That doesn't really necessarily mean you're diminishing anything else. It's just when it comes to balance, right? Whatever it might be at that moment in time, whatever it is, go get it, kind of thing. Don't think you have to sacrifice something to be a go-getter. Absolutely not. So, yeah, thank you. You nailed it right on the head.
Just add on one thing, because I love what you said. I think for a while for me, I felt, especially when my children were small, that the only option was to stay home and be the mom, because I chose that, and that I realized quickly that everyone has free time. Even a stay-at-home mom, I promise they have a little bit of free time. And so it was what I chose to do with that free time. I had other friends who made different decisions than I did with their free time. And I chose to get up really early and build a business in my free time. And so my kids were asleep, and I was on the phone talking to CEOs on the East Coast. And my kids never even knew I had this secret hidden life for many years. And every once in a while I'd get a phone call from the East Coast in the middle of the day, and I'd be like, shh. Like, or I'd go hide in my closet or something. I could hear them like looking for me, because I wasn't used to taking calls in the afternoon. But, and then most of our time when the kids got up, I was just in full mommy mode, and we'd, go to the beach and go run our errands and take everything to school and potty train and all these other really totally contrasting things. But I think it's important, if you know you have a personality where you have goals and you don't want to maybe sideline those goals while you're pursuing your family responsibilities, which are also awesome goals. It's okay to keep your finger in things, and it's okay to spend that free time. And for me, it was an outlet. I tried some of these other things that my friends were doing, and I just didn't feel like it was enough for me and what my needs were. And so I really enjoyed having these other things I did. Yeah, it made my life sometimes a little more stressful. It would have been easier to do some of these other things. But I chose that for myself, and I'm really glad. And so when my kids became more independent and I wanted to transition back into full-time work, it was a lot easier because I had been doing all of these other things all along instead of, some would say going on the sidelines for 10 or 20 years and then trying to transition back and you don't have relevant skills. And that makes it really hard. So I was really grateful. Somebody counseled me when I was a very young newlywed. She said, always have something going on the side for yourself. And that doesn't mean you have to own a business, but volunteering, keeping your skill set sharp, finding outlets. And it was so critical for me and my happiness and my ability to be a good mom, directly related to having outlets for myself. And I'm really glad, again, I have a supportive husband who would take time off from work sometimes so I could pursue those goals. We hired nannies at different times. We definitely always had people helping to clean the house. So I really appreciated that he was willing to do those things and saw that it was important for both of us and our children's happiness if I had those outlets.
Thank you for those responses. Okay, we'd like to turn the time over to the audience to take a few minutes if you have any questions for our panelists.
How do you guys separate outside, kind of like outside pressure or between like your own goals and perspectives? Because I know like a lot of times even in my life, like I'll get outside pressure from my parents to do one thing, but I'll have different goals, and it's kind of like trying to decide between, hey, like is this outside pressure like what I'm supposed to be doing, or am I supposed to go after my goals? Like which information am I supposed to choose, and how have you guys as couples been able to decide what's best for yourself involving those pressures and goals and how you want to align them with your future?
For a lot of couples, including us, those questions and concerns you mentioned arise from the time you're deciding to get married. How you're going to actually conduct your wedding, what you're going to do. Moms and dads and have their own opinions. And for us, just speaking for myself, we've struggled with that. I think most people do, but we've decided at some point we need to make decisions that work for us. And they're not going to be popular sometimes. Our mom and dad may not like what we're saying. Our friends may disagree. There may be others who criticize, or as we heard Ann say, others may judge us. But if it's right with us and we know it's right with the Lord, that's what matters. The most important thing that we've done is to remember that we need to counsel with each other and counsel with the Lord. And sometimes those aren't popular decisions, at least not popular by the world standards.
One of our favorite places to counsel is date night. I said you vented about the kids. I made it sound like bad, but anyways. But we try actually to not talk about the kids. We try to find other things to talk about that are important to us so that we kind of vary our conversations. Otherwise, we could stay on that topic all day and all night, right? And so date night is a really important ritual that we have for us. It really keeps us centered. It keeps us still a couple. Otherwise, we probably would barely see each other if we didn't take time out for date night. The other thing is we always try to do getaway trips, just the two of us. And it's been amazing on those trips. So many giant life decisions have been made during those trips. And I always wonder what would happen if we didn't take that trip, because we've done total 180s in our life because of that time. And I think it's important, not because it's just fun, because it is. You get to feel like you're dating again without any responsibility, which is the best. But it's important because there's no interruption, which is really rare for us at home or at work. We're constantly interrupted in our thought process. And so it gives us quite a bit of time to think and plan and dream and discuss without interruption and distractions.
Do you have anything? So just to understand, your question was how to keep outside influences from corrupting your goal, right? First off, turn off social media, okay, right? Because us naturally, and I believe us girls have this, well, it's solely embedded in us in how much we compare ourselves. and it sucks, okay? That quality that we have, we can harness it into something good, but it's easily corrupting, okay? So when it comes to that, having these outside influences in your goals, cut them out. Cut them out. This is what I've done, and very unpopular sometimes. Cut them out and actually think about it and your goals and what you want and how bad you want them. Tom and I have like a few mottos in our lives that we live by, and one of them is everything will work out. If it's in righteousness, you're living the gospel, right? You're living the way that you're supposed to, everything will be fine. Okay? So with your goals, and to keep the corruption out, cut out any influence, really dig deep in thinking about what you want. Then when you reach it, will you be happy with it? Are you doing those goals for you, or are you doing them for your parents, or for social media likes, or for followers, or for somebody to look at you and be like, oh, I wish I had your body, like something like that. That's my answer, is just cut them out, think about it. If it's good, what else is there to worry about? And if it makes you feel good, that's the part. You accomplished it. That's my answer. Cool.
So my question is, I understand like all of you are working, some of you have businesses, and yeah. So how do you separate your finances? I know, like who manage it and how does it work? But
Go for it.
That's a
dude.
great question.
Go for it.
For us, we really have not separated our finances.
Scary, but doable.
Yeah, I completely trust Tara. At no time will she go crazy and shop and so on and so forth. And we have
same.
limits on big purchases and things like that, and we have rules, but like we don't have separate bank accounts between the two of us. And I mean, we just last week sat down and did taxes together so that we could both understand it. And
Do you mean businesses, or
yeah, this
like between business and personal?
Yeah, like business
So-
and also family finance and who manage like
Okay.
yeah.
got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so even in this last week, I guess personally, we sat down and did our taxes together and made sure we both understood
Fun.
that awesome world. And then as a business side, we recently, as Tara brought up, had some negotiations and it involved money and talking with people making business finance decisions. And my background in education was definitely more developed and familiar in that. But Tara was taking the lead on this negotiation, so we walked through it and she took the lead and did a great job and ran that part of the business just fine.